Welcome back to the Cut the Crap's Politics channel. Today we're going to be talking about communism. In my last video, we discussed fascism. Fascism and communism are probably two of the most misunderstood ideologies out there, so in today's video, we're going to set the record straight about communism. First off, we'll discuss where communism comes from, what it stands for, some key misconceptions, notable adherents, and lastly, clarification about communist countries like China or the USSR. Contrary to popular belief, communist principles were not first thought up by Karl Marx. In ancient Greece and various other ancient civilizations, ideas of classless, stateless, and egalitarian societies were dreamed of. However, Karl Marx is the one who named and created the modern ideology of communism. Karl Marx was a German political theorist, sociologist, and economic philosopher who lived from 1818 until 1883. What is communism? Communism is a type of political theory and economic philosophy. Communism states that there is an ongoing and ever-present conflict in society, even if we cannot actively see it. This conflict is between the bourgeois and the proletariat class. The bourgeois class are the elite who own the wealth, power, and means of production within a society. The bourgeois would include corporate executives, investors, CEOs, production company owners, and lobbyists. Whereas the proletariat class are those who are the working class of a society, and typically sell their labor for wages. The proletariat would include small business owners, nurses, teachers, sanitation workers, construction workers, retail workers, farmers, and many more. Chances are everyone watching this video is a proletariat. Communists believe that the proletariat class is being actively and knowingly suppressed and oppressed by the bourgeois, who ensure they're engaging in infighting rather than conflicting with the bourgeois. Only when the proletariat becomes aware and accepts this, which is called class consciousness, can the revolution begin. Communists seek to seize control of the means of production, like factories or natural resources, and put them in democratic control of the laborers who work at them rather than the elites who own them. Communism is focused on the common ownership of the means of production, distribution, and exchange that allocates products to everyone in the society based on need. A communist society would entail the absence of private property and social classes, and ultimately money and the state itself. So now that we understand communism, let's go over key misconceptions. 1. Communism and fascism are the same thing. Wrong. Communism and fascism are two opposing, opposite, and conflicting ideologies. 2. The Nazis were communist. Wrong. The Nazis were far-right ethno-fascists, whereas communism is a far-left ideology that advocates for the destruction of authoritarian principles of fascism. Hitler and the Nazis hated and executed many communists. 3. In a communist state, there is no personal property. Wrong. When communists argue for the end to private property, they do not mean houses, personal items, gardens, or your car. In this case, private property refers to non-government-owned property, such as power plants, apartment complexes, natural resources, or corporate farmlands. 4. Communism mandates uniformity. Wrong. Communism does not advocate for everyone to be the exact same, nor does it mandate everyone must be the same. It does, however, advocate that everyone is treated equally under the law in society, employment, education, etc. And lastly, 5. The Soviet Union, China, Cuba, Vietnam, and/or were communist. Wrong. None of these states are or have ever been communist. We'll talk more in depth about this later. Now let's name some prominent modern followers of communist ideology. Please note that some of these people may subscribe to different disciplines of communism. Angela Davis, American, Black Panther, feminist, and vice presidential candidate. Gus Hall, American labor leader and presidential candidate. Elizabeth Rowley, Canadian leader of the Communist Party of Canada. Walter Baye, Austrian leader of the Party of the European Left of the European Union. Tupac Shakur, American rapper, poet, and activist, was a member of the Young Communist League USA. Rosa Parks, American civil rights icon and activist. However, it is alleged she attended Communist Party USA meetings with her husband. It is unproven. Helen Keller, American disability rights advocate and activist. Keller joined and voiced support for the Socialist Party in 1909. José Saramago, Portuguese writer and Nobel Prize in Literature winner, was a member of the Portuguese Communist Party. And lastly, let's discuss how countries throughout history have been deemed as communist, but never actually were communist. These countries include the Soviet Union, Russia, China, Cuba, North Korea, Vietnam, Laos, Venezuela, Angola, and a few others. For example 1, let's use the USSR. While the Bolsheviks claimed to desire to create a classless, stateless society, the reality was a one-party state that suppressed dissent. They established a command economy that focused on rapid industrialization rather than the communist ideal of collective ownership. Democracy was essentially dead. Over time, it resembled a bureaucratic and authoritarian regime rather than true communist principles. And for our second example, let's use China. Initially influenced by Marxist ideology, the Communist Party of China focused on peasant-based revolution rather than the urban proletariat. Under Mao, policies like the Great Leap Forward and the Cultural Revolution led to immense social upheaval, and the economic model shifted towards state capitalism under reforms in the late 20th century. And that's all for today's video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know what we should do next.